No, wait. Onegaishimasu.
Onegaishimasu.
We have to do a little bit of loosening. So just shake everything out a little bit. Okay, great. Just have to roll the shoulders a little bit. Especially pulling with opening the back out into the back. Right, a little bit side to side.
What the hell was that?
Yes. Right, just take this movement down a little bit to the ribs, to the side of the body. And if you want, you can also bring the arms into it, rolling. Stretch out the body a little bit more. Let's see. Go to the hips, just a bit of rotation, nice and loose. Okay, perfect. Just playing with the arms here, raising them up. So we're opening into the shoulder neck. Right, taking it into a wave through the spine. Great, roll out with the arm, nice deep breath in. Then through the knees, stretch all the way down. Going all the way up to your spine. At the top of the head. Coil up, breathing in. Breathing out as you come down. Right, making it a little bit more active, dropping through the legs, keeping the feet in contact. Right lower through the arms, keeping the spine nice and long. Oh, good. Great. And then we'll just finish just lightly flicking out the hands. Get a feel for the ground underneath the movement, the feet. Just playing out with a little bit of kind of raising up, dropping down, a bit like a kind of slapping movement. A really loose yokomen. Trying to feel for the top of them, kind of floating the arm up, and then dropping it down. So. Right, and last one, just playing kind of flicking the arm out. So this few works are very light, kind of without getting back face. Just kind of flicking it out. There we go. Great, keep going. Perfect. Nice. Okay, great. Grab the tanto. Let's see. So tanto is great for me because it's a kind of link between the atemi work we do and the weapon work. So tanto works really nice. So we'll just start really some real clear basics. So we'll start straight away with the feet going into it. So you're going to start with a hand beat, either side. That the knife's going to go. In this case, you're going to take this grip so that the knife blade's up facing up, and you're going to just have it by the back hip. It's going to kind of hide the knife behind the back hip. And just for the start, so it's kind of one of the 𝒊𝒏 practices in a way with the knife work. Just practice stepping in, thrusting in this way, and then dropping back. Just coming here to place the weight in, thrust the whole body in, draw it back. Thrust in, draw it back. Thrust in, draw it back. So if we're talking about kind of intent in this one, the intent pretty clear in this one is to draw the whole body in and whap, thrust through, straight through. Nice simple movement. That's it. Yeah, that's it. Nice. Yeah, good. Yeah, and the main thing again, same with the 𝒕𝒉, same with weapon work. Think that the attack's really coming from the body. So in this case, obviously the knife is the weapon, is the sharp tool, but think about the body kind of coming in behind it. So you imagine if you see any video, I don't recommend looking at them, but if you watch any knife attack videos, although this is a really stylized attack, most of the time people never see the knife coming. Whoa. The person's already at a distance, and then the knife's already been stuck in the person. So the idea with the knife in this kind of practice, you're looking not to kind of show it for a long time, but you're looking for it basically to go with the body, and then it's in, and then that's it. That's the kind of practice in this case. So think about kind of concealing it, and the body move comes in, bam, the knife's behind it. Just play with the kind of, it's quite a sneaky weapon. Obviously, the knife is by nature quite sneaky. It's kind of hidden weapon. Yeah. And just try both sides, left, right, mix them in, do a couple. Now, as you do it, just consider the other hand in it as well. So I was in a class today with Serena's group, and we're doing a lot of katatedori work. So katatedori is an interesting kind of grip to work with. But if you think about katatedori, although it's not like a practical in terms of just the grip, it's always going to follow something. So the grip is going to be followed by something. And it's like a classic attack. Again, if you watch like knife attack videos, there's a few common attacks. One of them is a grab followed by a kind of thrusting motion. So think about this hand is going to be used. This hand usually going to be like death gripped onto the knife. They will never kind of release it. And the other hand is also a kind of concern because you think about the person's going to come in, either grab the arm, grab the sleeve, grab the t-shirt, whatever. So just play with, in this case, that front hand. So it's also going to be useful in terms of being able to take control of the person. We use this later in terms of defense, not attack, but play with it with the sense that how you could also use the backhand would generally be used as a kind of grabbing, pulling kind of motion, or grabbing, freezing kind of motion. But the idea is it's going to kind of be used. Right. That's it, nice. Yeah, very nice, very nice. Good. Yeah, also think about the way we use this knife as well. Although we call it a knife, it's more like a dagger in a way, because it's a longer, you think about a knife, you're generally going to be a bit shorter. So think of this, it's really a classic like Japanese dagger. So the motion in this case is like a rising thrust motion. So obviously you've got that kind of motion which is in now. But in this case, this attack's a little bit more like a rising movement, and that's why the blade faces up traditionally, because it's going to also cut on the way back this way. So think about that kind of motion, but it's got that classic kind of motion like we've got with the joski, that kind of down, low to high kind of movement, and it's also going to kind of follow up with probably something else as well. But so you've got obviously that movement, but that's going to kind of continue as well. So just play a little bit with that kind of arc movement. Yeah. So, okay, perfect. Nice. Okay, we'll go to the kind of classic position. So now the blade facing down. We'll start with the Shomanuchi. So obviously not a practical attack in terms of kind of striking motion in terms of the knife, but just start with this idea. So you're going to kind of come in through the center of the head and then come down with it. So you've got now this kind of driving down movement. And obviously with the 𝒂𝒂𝒿 we're doing this more of this kind of percussive thing. This is much more like a kind of slash. So it's got that kind of quality now. So you're really looking to kind of slice through. Same mechanics, slightly different use of the movement, but just play it kind of through, working through the center line, wham, and closing down on it. Again, the body movement's pretty much the same, but you've got that idea of the body entering in, cutting down into it. It's a nice kind of solid straight line, and then you can adapt this later for slightly more practical slashing. Great, we'll go to the third kind of basic one with this one. So this one is the knife pointing down, the blade pointing down, the blade away from the body. So you're gripping it this way, like a knife. This is the classic kind of psycho style, and again, really common attack in terms of knife attacks. You'll see a lot of the damage go with people is from the arms and the blows coming down on them. So this is a really classic going to the jugular. So this is in our language kind of a basic yokomen. But you've got that kind of, now you've got a driving movement down through. So this is a classic kind of stabbing kind of thing. But yeah, focus on the body, but you've got the knife kind of hidden behind, and then it's going to arc up, arc through down. But you've got all the weight basically through that very small object in stabbing down the motion. Very dangerous. Right, and then the opposite for this, you've got the 𝒂𝒄𝒄𝒄𝒄. So in this case, it comes across the body and then thrusts in this way. It's a bit more like a kind of back fist, but it's got the classic kind of 𝒂𝒄𝒄𝒄 attack, which is going to come across and then reverse. Ooh, the nice little way. That way. You want the knife pointed away from this way. So you're going in, and then this is coming to the side. So you're attacking the opposite side of the head. So you've got that one or the opposite side of the body, and then up that one. And then this way. Nasty attack, that one. It's a nasty one. Yeah. Right. Okay, great. So we'll just play with chaining those together. So you've got 4 attacks. Obviously, there's no knife katas that exist in it. So some styles of karate have a knife katas. We don't have it in Aikido, but just focus on kind of chaining this together. So the main thing I want to focus on is obviously the attack, but focus on the switch of the grip. So you're going to go in this as a set. You've got the thrust in, dropping back, switching the blade. The showman, dropping back, switching the blade. The 𝒂𝒄𝒄𝒄, dropping back, keep the blades as it is, and then switch the side. But just play that idea now of rolling through the knife. The main thing with the knife is to be kind of flexible so that you can later have the ability to kind of switch it. And you're going to do that in the back of the blade. So you want to kind of chain that motion to the switch so that it's kind of, you want it to be like a kind of magic trick. It's going to switch behind the body. Right. And later you can play with that. You can change the hand with it. Play with the attack, switch it. So you've got ski, showman, 𝒂𝒄𝒄𝒄, 𝒂𝒄𝒄𝒄. That's it. Okay, perfect. So in terms of the Japanese kind of knife work, dagger work, it's usually it's quite basic normally. So you've got very few attacks, this kind of straight line, these kind of movements, this kind of movement. And the reason for that, I think generally is the knife was used in terms as a kind of backup weapon in terms of grappling. So it would usually be like hidden in the back of the body, and it would come out in terms of grappling. So if you see like all the old style daito-ryu techniques, they usually involve like a pin at the end, like a break of the arm, and then a hit on the top of the head with it. And generally this represents a pulling out of the knife and a killing of the person in terms of it. So the knife was used as like a grappling, break the person, get them into position, and then stab them. That's the kind of basic principle in the Japanese knife work. So it's used as integrated into the taijutsu in a way. The other systems that you'll find, which are also interesting, obviously, is the most interesting one for me is the Filipino weapon. So using it which comes basically from the machete, and it's a bit more freeform, or it's a bit more creative in terms of the knife work. So we'll play with, there's a basic structure to this, which is like 8 directions. So it's more obviously slicing work, and obviously it comes from machete work, so it's much bigger in terms of the movement. So play with this. It just start with the first 2, which is the slicing this way. So it's just that kind of free. So the attacks are a little bit more generally what you would find with someone with a knife, generally going to be kind of slashing work, stabbing work. But one of the key attacks is this kind of slashing movement, but just working the horizontal. Again, play with both hands, switching across the body. So just going to kind of loose, dragging it with the hips. That's it. So you're just going to feel that you can shift it with the hip as well. So the change comes from the hips. So still trying to keep it in terms of the structure that we do. Letting the hips change the knife. That's it. That's it. Yeah, what you can also do with this is switch the grip so that you've got the blade side down, pointing down, and play with that kind of movement. So you've got to kind of slice across. But you get that hip's going to kind of drag it. It's going to drag it. Yeah, that's it. Nice. That's it. Just kind of guiding it through. That's it.
Michael, would you say that so when I turn it on, would you say like the hips are gonna go? I don't even know if you should see would you say that the hips would kind of go like a figure 8 to make it?
Right, yeah. In a way, you've always got that movement happening with the hip. So in a way, that kind of shift of the hip, that kind of motion, basically that's always kind of happening to like a lesser or greater extent. That movement's kind of always happening. So I never want the hips in a way to be just kind of working on one plane. So I always want that sense. The key thing, think about the hip work, that kind of figure of 8. Think about shifting the feet, shifting the weight in the feet. So you got to kind of roll through it. Obviously, in this case, the arm work's kind of linear, but later obviously can start to be expanded out a little bit more into a kind of little bit looser. Yeah. So, but the key thing is that that sense of the hips kind of roll with it. Right. Great. We'll go to the next direction. So they're really easy to remember. You go now on the diagonal. So we'll do these 4 together. You've got that diagonal and passing back up, and you've got that diagonal passing back down. So it's basically like an X in front of the body. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4. And again, trying to get their hips to follow it. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. Slice up the same line, back, up, back. You can do this in different combinations. This is the kind of basic. Right.
1, 2.
So,
down and up and down.
Right. So you go down, up, and then down. Up.
Oh, down, up,
down,
down, down, up, down,
Another one you'll see common is this one. It's going down from the top, opening to the top, down, and then you've got the reverse up, up. You've got down, down, up, up, down, down, up, up. Right. You can really play with these. They're pretty kind of versatile. Just think of. Also, the other movements these come from. Also, think about nunchuck. Those kind of movements of the hip, kind of firing out the tip of the weapon. Very similar pattern, but. And you want to keep the ground, keep the hips guiding the weapon. So, that's it. And then switching the sides, playing with it. And yeah, a little bit tricky, yeah, but play with the knife down as well. So you've got the point down. Play with that one. You need a little bit more flexibility in terms of the wrist, the shoulder. That's going to kind of open it out, but you've got these kind of slashing. You'll find some of them kind of easier than the others. But let the hips again kind of guide it, open it out. There. There. Yeah. Nice. Yeah, and then the next one, just play with this line, which is like the vertical line. So this obviously uses in the same way we've got the thrusting movement working on that line, kind of coming up, would be used like a kind of slashing movement. The blade's down, it's going to be kind of obviously rising up that way. The other use for this is think about the blade being down. You've also got again a rising movement, but you've got the big classic one is that kind of is a thrust either out that way or down onto the back of the neck, which is really lethal. So you want to just play with that kind of line through the body, so the kind of vertical, which includes kind of slashes up and down, and also kind of thrusting out these kind of movements. That kind of movement, and that kind of movement, and that kind of movement. Dealing with those that way. Quite similar in a way to what 𝒂𝒄𝒄𝒿, those kind of movements. Vertical, a little bit tighter. Great. So just play now with these X directions, 8 directions. So obviously you can do them in order, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, something like that. You just mix them in together, but play with direction as well. So you want to play with later, play with the ability to kind of move through it and let again the hips guide it, guide the motion. So you just kind of play with those directions, play with the position of the knife, switching it. Right. Play with shifting the grip. So let the body kind of guide it all the time. Get the hips and the hands really connecting into the tip of the weapon. So. Whoa. Right. Yeah, and then the last week, just play with kind of mixing the two in. So you've got these kind of classic kind of attacking kind of movements, these, and play with also mixing these kind of more kind of slicing movements in these directions. Mixing, finding the grip. Play with kind of concealing the weapon, changing the hands, rolling with it, but just allow the body to kind of freely move. Both kind of short combinations. Getting used to the knife and the Great. Okay, great. So if you've got a target, I'm going to use it's like a water bottle or something. Just play now with like one attack. So you're going to basically, you can play also if you like with concealing the knife or like tucking in the pants or something like this. It's generally going to run around the back. You can also put it in the waist in the front. But play just with like a target, just kind of getting to distance. So obviously you've got the knife. Play with also with the idea of preparing the attack as well. So getting to distance. And then you want to be kind of nice and fluid with it. So it's just going to kind of come in and pretty kind of casual, but play with kind of concealing it, releasing it on the attack, kind of one kind of motion. But just that it's steady distance, you'll generally find the distance is pretty close. So it's a bit like striking as well. When you realize that the actual launch of the attack is actually going to be a bit or a lot closer than I kind of imagined. So just play with get into the exactly the right distance. Generally, it's about where you're going to take a step. You're taking a step from the back leg to the front. But just play with just that right point where you're going to launch the attack from. Just like kind of hovering on the edge of that distance. And also bridging coming through with it. So any target will do. Right. Right. Whoosh. That's it. There you go. Nice. Great. So we'll deal with the other side of it. So we'll first look at the idea of kind of moving with the knife, looking at the technique. So this is obviously working from a viewpoint not to kill the person, but to come into positions of control. So we'll play with this, just a few kind of basic ones. The first few just playing with the position in the knife, and instead of kind of extending the hand blade out. So the classic one in this case, the first one we'll do is 𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂 going to go up with it, with the knife blade in the front, showing with your hand. You come through, draw out with it. So you got that slicing movement with the foot, with the tenta, and then cutting down with it this way. So just blow this the front foot, front hand together. Goes in one. You can get rolling in, slicing out to the side, and then dropping in, cutting down through this way. So you're using the knife, but you're using a way to kind of control. You're not actually slicing with it in terms of making contact with the blade. It's there as kind of possibility. Just working that, just those kind of motions with the knife, getting used to wielding it with the movement. Comes up front foot. 1, 2. Yeah, I'll show you the footwork for this one. So you've got, if the knife's in the right hand, right foot, right hand, one second, you're going to go up with it, and then the back leg comes in here, and then you curl around with it this way. So you're going right, left, slice that way, and then this one, wow, you continue into the kotegaeshi. Yeah. Yeah, that's. Yeah. Good. Yeah. Yeah, also think of using the knife like as a threat as well. So you want the obviously we're using a lot of the time, we're using like a hand blade towards the face. We want that kind of shot. You want to imagine the knife is used to this as well. So think about the knife coming in towards, you've got that response. And we also use it as well to think about keeping you want your movement trained on the person. So whatever you're doing, and especially in this movement, the separation can happen here. I go like out away from the person. Now I know there is a form of kotegaeshi where you like touch the back, a bit of a long form. So in this one, think about coming in and the ability to come in here and actually slice it to the person this way with that knife. But you're just going to make that movement a little bit open. That is there as a possibility, and then you open it out this way. But I'm basically trained on the person's body with the movement. So that sense kind of cutting through, but you don't make the cut. Nishio Tensei had this great phrase about how many times you can forgive someone in a form. Like he said this about 𝒕𝒉. Like 𝒕𝒉 was about forgiving people through. It's like, bam, you can hit them, bam, you can hit them, bam, you can hit them. So there's all these possibilities in the form where you can cut the person, but you're choosing not to. So you're choosing to avoid cutting them. Even the end that can go around this way. So the knife just there as a threat. Okay, great. We'll go to another form. This is like based on a short form of 𝒂𝒉𝒂𝒃. So you're going to now switch the knife. It's going to be blade facing away, or blade facing down, blade away from you. So think about now 𝒂𝒉𝒂𝒃. You've got that same motion. You're going to come up with the arm, and in this case, you're going to coil in this way. Take the back of the neck here, and then you're coming into this position. So the knife goes against the throat this way. So again, you're just kind of pressing in, not making a kind of thrusting motion or anything, just kind of using contact. This is based on that. There's a short form of the 𝒂𝒉𝒂𝒃 where you come up, and then you're basically controlling the head with the hand, basically over the head this way. And this replaces the knife. The hand with the knife in this one. So you go kind of up, coil in, and control. Basically, really kind of short form 𝒂𝒉𝒂𝒃. So you're ending up with a knife here. Yes, yeah. This is a good one. Yeah. Right. The other form you can think of this is a bit more nasty. You're going to go from the back leg, the blade facing out. So this one, you've got a slicing movement up as you enter. And then you're basically, this is lined up with the person's body, with the shoulder. You're going to rotate in, take the back of the neck, take the knife onto the back of the neck, and then drop it down this way. Just coming into that kind of downwards movement. So you've got now the movement coming up. Up can also be a slice up, or you can just kind of raise up with it into that kind of position. And then you're coiling in onto the back, taking the knife on the back, and then drop everything down with it. This way. This is a nice kind of tight movement. This is a bit more based on that if you think about like a Shomanuchi Rune, which is very like short, coming up, closing down onto this way. But in this case, we're kind of extending it, taking the control, dropping them down into the ground. Snap. Okay, great. We'll go now into a kind of full body movement with it. So think this one's like kaitenagi. So it's like kaitenagi. So if you think about like a classic where you've got the wrist held, this one again, it's just really for body movement. So think about now you've got to slice it out with the knife, slice out, and then you've got the rotation in. Think again, constantly aligning the blade to the bodywork, and then you're rolling back, slicing down with it, and kind of piercing through with it. So again, you just want to integrate it into the bodywork. So in terms of footwork, you're coming out to the side, slice, stepping in, change direction, stepping back with a roll, and stepping back through, coming through here with the body. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can also, again, kind of slice at any point. You can thrust through at any point. They're all possible. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, very good. And the other movement you can do with this, also you probably find yourself going into it naturally if you start to play with it, is Shihonage. So in this case, I think about like a Yokume Shihonage. It's kind of coming in, slicing down, rolling through the hip, coming through with a back step. But play with that idea, again, like that movement. Again, getting the hips engaged, slicing through, stepping through, and then dropping into it. Really feels like you want to go with the back step, but play with that kind of motion. It's very similar to that Kaizenage motion, but that kind of motion. Okay, good. Last thing we'll do is like a pure defensive movement and neutralizing movement. So this one is against, do this in the dojo sometimes with the knife, which is this is a really good exercise. So in this case, you've got the attacker coming in, and they're really going to come in fast and strong, wham, like this kind of feeling. So they're coming in with a yoke, wham, against the body. What the other person as the defender does, with the knife in the front, like this, you're playing with this movement, and what you're playing with is kind of your coming entry, coming in, opening and finding the knife this way against the throat. So again, you're coming into a control with it, and again, you want the draw of the knife, the body work, everything to be the same. So you're ending up in this case with the arm control of the person and the knife at the throat. And this one we just use to basically press them into the wall. So you would basically do it here, and then you just want to feel as they come in. Oh yeah, I missed it, that one. So you're going to come in, you're going to take it, draw it out. So this has to be happening in one motion. So you can't do this in two. So it needs to be control, take it, come into it this way. So you're looking to really control them and basically have the knife at the throat by the time they got there. So just play with this. It's a kind of soft, it's a kind of very, not soft at all, soft, very fast movement you come into. But play with that idea of kind of exploding that control, find the knife. And the feeling to go in again, it's like, this is a classic Aikido feeling of like, I want to smother the person with my positioning. So it's like, whoa, the knife at the throat, the threat's there, but I'm kind of, I have this feeling of I'm entering into the attack, entering into the kind of aggression of the person and neutralizing it just through positioning and time, hopefully. You've got a very short window with this one, obviously. Right. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, the other person who's really great before we stop is look into, if you want to look at knife work and creative use of knife work, look at 𝒔𝒏 and look at especially Vasiliev, because his use of knife work is really incredibly creative and also very subtle. And he does a lot of work with kind of concealing the knife, rolling with it. And also one thing we don't do enough in the dojo is, especially with knife work, is like he uses like knives in the ground scattered around, so kind of rolling around, picking up knives, playing with them. So they have a whole load of drills with knives which are totally outside the box of this kind of kata training that we tend to do, which is interesting in terms of teaching principles, but in being a little bit more creative. Also, the world of 𝒔𝒏 is a really good world to kind of look at. Yeah, that's it. The key thing for us is also that idea of working with the knife, but being able to neutralize as well. So this idea of �𝒏 is obviously dealing with how to quickly dispatch the person very easily, quickly. So Aikido is working in a slightly different area of like, how do I get into a position and control them and neutralize them? So we're trying to play in that kind of area rather than coming in. But it starts with an idea of being able to actually launch those kind of attacks, being able to deal with them in the dojo, hopefully never in the street. Anyway. Okay, great. We will bow out. Okay, there we go. どうもありがとうございました。
どうもありがとうございます。
Great.